Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people that want the best info, but just don't have the time. Get your podcast fix with the Cliff Notes versions of your favorite podcasts. No fluff, just the actionable golden nuggets. Having this much knowledge at your fingertips should be downright illegal. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with Satori Prime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello everyone. Ilan Ferdman here. Welcome to another Performance Enhancing Podcast. So this is your last and final chance to enter into win a one-on-one consultation with myself or my brother Guy. So again, head over to satoriprime.com/podcast contest right away and enter yourself to win. We will reveal the winner in the next week or two. As some of the ratings and reviews are actually taking a little bit of time to show back up in iTunes, but we've seen your comments, so we're just waiting for them to show up, and then we will do the drawing and let everyone know what they've won. So remember, everyone's a winner. Everyone gets at least a 15-minute consultations. Other will get a $100 discount on different products that Satori Prime offers, and one grand prize winner will win an hour consultation with myself and my brother Guy. So I've gone on a little tear and gotten pretty obsessed with TED Talks. So I'm going to do a series of a few TED Talks videos that I really like. I'll keep watching them and keep sharing a few of them. So we'll do that for the next few podcasts. And I want to start this TED series with a TED Talk done by Matthieu Ricard called The Habits of Happiness. Now, Matthieu was a molecular biologist in France. So he talks with a funny accent. But then he eventually found his way into the mountains and actually became a monk. Now, part of his studies and research has been all about the study of happiness. And if you've listened to any of our performance enhancing podcasts before, you know that I'm quite obsessed with neuroscience. So it's fitting that this monk here talks about neuroscience of all things. And he starts off the TED Talk by talking about how pleasure is based on time. And what he means by that is that our pleasure actually diminishes with something over time. Like, we don't love something unconditionally for a prolonged period of time. And the examples he gave was, say you get a first cut of a chocolate cake, right? And you've just been craving this chocolate cake. And that first slice is going to be amazing. You're going to indulge in it and enjoy it, etc. But by the second one, you're not going to love it that much. And by the third one, most of us are going to be feeling guilty and a little bit disgusted with ourselves, right? I'll give you another couple of examples. You can listen to a song that you absolutely love, right? Once, twice, maybe 3 times. But how about after listening to it 20 times or 50 times in a row? Would your love for that song diminish the more you listen to it, right? So you just want to pause here for a moment and just consider that happiness, in Matthew's example, is actually time-based and that it diminishes over time, okay? So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. Now then he defined well-being, and I've never heard this definition, so it was actually quite interesting to hear from his perspective. He said well-being is not just a mere pleasurable sensation, but rather a deep sense of serenity and fulfillment. All that stuff I was good with. The last part really kind of struck me, which was it's a state that underlies all emotional states. I'm going to just say that one line again because I want you to understand it. A state that underlies all emotional states. What he meant by that is that this sense of well-being is kind of the backdrop or the movie screen that everything else is projected on. So what he was basically asking as a theory is, if that's the way it functions, or right, that's the definition, then can we have sadness while being happy? And can we have anger while being happy? And that's kind of his study. That's really what he's been focusing his study on, is this state of well-being, the fabric that which all of these other emotional states map onto. So really, really interesting concept. He didn't go too far deep into it, but just something really interesting to think that people are studying this. Now, he said a line that I think a lot of people say, and it's the reason that I think most people are unhappy. The line was, you have to have everything to be happy. Or you'll say something like, well, I have to have this to be happy, right? And the issue with that, what Matthieu was saying, and I completely agree with this, is that if that's the way you perceive life, okay, then if any part of that picture that you have is missing, you're automatically going to become unhappy. So let me give you an example. You are looking for the man of your dreams or woman of your dreams, and you have a list of 32 things, okay? And this person checks every single box on the list except for one. One being hair color. You want them blonde and they're black hair. And all of a sudden, you're way less happy because of hair color. Right now, I'm using that as an extreme example, but I'm sure you can map on in your own life where, you've gotten a job offer or you've gotten a business idea off the ground and everything is almost there, but there's one or two things that aren't. And you're like, oh, this is miserable. It's not what I wanted. And that all comes because you're attached to the way things need to look. Instead of being committed to an outcome, you get attached to the way things are. So I want to read you a quote here. And Guy said this on one of the beer talks that we've done, which we're about to do another one real soon. He said, the best way to live is have low expectations, but big commitments. And I think that's a very, very powerful statement. So most of the time, what we do is we're looking to fix things outside of ourselves, right? And there's very little control. If you've heard any of the podcasts with Stella Grazant, there's little control that we have about the outside world. What we can control is what happens internally. In fact, what Matthieu says is it's the mind that actually translates the outer world. So how many times have you been in a situation where you've seen two people look at the same exact situation and have completely different interpretations of what happens? So let me give you an example. Someone can, for example, live in a multi-million-dollar penthouse on the 100th floor, looking out on the rest of the world, the most gorgeous, gorgeous apartment, and all they're thinking about is what window can they jump out of, right? Now, on the other hand, you have people who are in horrible situations that none of us wish on our worst enemies. Whether it's, their parents are sick, their kids just died, whatever it might be, and yet somehow they still maintain a complete positive attitude and are actually a contribution to society. So your circumstances don't dictate whether you are happy or sad, positive or negative. And to drive this home, he actually said a really interesting analogy, which I'd never heard of, which is consciousness is like a mirror that can show happy, sad, angry, tortured faces. But the faces show up on the mirror. They don't, in essence, affect the mirror, right? So that makes us take a step back and realize that we have a choice moment by moment on what we let affect us. Because if we're like that mirror, then, these states that we're talking about, the different emotional states, aren't actually bending or shifting the mirror. They're just being reflected. And we know this because we're not always happy, and we're not always angry, and we're not always frustrated, and we're not always overwhelmed, or we're not always fearful. The fact is, physics says two opposite objects cannot be in the same space at the same time. That is the same thing for emotions. Two opposite emotions can't exist at the same place at the same time. In other words, you can't have love and hate at the same time. You can't have angry and joy at the same time. all feelings are fleeting. And if you listen to a podcast I did with Stella Gerzant, you'll know that the fastest way to alter your state is to displace it with another. And the best way we discussed this that she had suggested is to get into a state of gratitude, but a real state of gratitude, not just like, I'm grateful for this or that, not like that. Real, the stuff that you feel like your heart literally melts. I'll share with you mine. When I come upstairs from my office and my son is sitting there, and now it's actually starting to happen with my daughter who's a little bit younger, but I come up and he right away runs to me, Abba, which is Hebrew for dad. Abba, 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 are you not working? Are you not working? And he just gives me this huge hug. And now my daughter Aaliyah also actually starts yelling, Abba, Abba, Abba. And when I think of that moment, even now, it puts such a smile on my face. My body gets tingly. My heart feels, you know that feeling where you're almost like melting on the inside? That's what it feels like. So what you want to look for is your antidote for all negative emotions. What's something that you can do regularly that will get you out of these states? It could be listening to a song that you love. It could be watching a video of your kids or your parents or a vacation or something that you love. Anything that you can do to displace that emotion and realize that all emotions are fleeting, both good and bad. So it's up to you to take that on. So that all leads to one thing, which is what Matthieu was really trying to drive home, is that mind training is crucial in our lives. The ability to control the thoughts and perceive the world in a certain way is what he describes as mind training. So he uses great analogy, like when people are angry, if you just imagine your anger as kind of like mist on hills, and you know when sun comes over the hills and kind of like you see the mist burn, that's how you can basically burn anger. Because once you know that anger is fleeting or every emotion is fleeting, you can kind of get to a point, and this takes time, this doesn't happen overnight, right? But through this practice, you can get to a point where any emotion in any situation basically comes across your mind almost like a bird flying across the sky. What I mean by that is it's just temporal. It's very fast and fleeting, and you can do that with both good and bad emotions. Most people like to hold on to emotions, hold on to the times that are good, and really resist the times that are bad. And again, it's all temporal. Just enjoy when the times are good and know that that won't last, and let the negative ones pass through you or fly through your mind like a bird across the sky. I thought that was a really, really beautiful thing. And this is all coming out in neuroscience, right? Something that we've spoken a lot about on this podcast, which is people used to believe that the brain was fixed. Like once you became an adult, your brain actually hardwired. But today, with all the incredible studies in neuroscience, we're finding what's called neuroplasticity, which means that the brain actually can rewire and reprogram itself. So back in the day, they thought that once you turned 23, that was it. You were hardwired a certain way. Now, we're finding that through things like mind training, you can literally break the neurons that fire together, move them, and rewire them and have them fire differently. So that's what he's talking about when he's talking about mind training. And to give you an incredible example of how powerful the brain is, well, it's actually considered the most complicated supercomputer to date. There's nothing that even comes close to it. But they've hooked up monks who are in meditation to fMRI machines, okay? And what you want to understand is that there's a bell curve of sorts of people that have, more negative emotions or more positive emotions. Monks are completely off the bell curve. They're so far into the positive side that it's just, like superhuman. So I'm not saying this as this is an example to live by or anything like that, but I just want to show you how far we can actually take the brain. So they've stuck these monks in the fMRI machines. They get into a very deep meditative state, and they actually create a sound of a bomb going off, literally a bomb going off. The monks don't even react. Not flinch a finger, nothing in the brain. It's like not even a blip on the radar. Because it's not that they don't hear it. It's because they're open to anything that gets created in existence. And they believe that everything will just pass and flow through them. So while we believed for a long time that there's certain things hardwired into the brain from a survival standpoint, right? If you heard a bomb, you're going to have a reaction, whether you think about it or not. Monks have taken their mind training capacity to the point that they won't even react to a bomb going off, which is just absolutely wild to think of. And that's ultimately the takeaway from this very, very powerful training. Now, I'm not saying train your brain so you don't react to bombs. You know, in the world that we live, that's probably not the safest of things. But how many things through your day are you just knee-jerk reacting to because you believe that that's just the way you are? Well, I'm here to tell you, and Matthieu was there to tell everyone else, your brain is not hardwired. There is neuroplasticity in there. And whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70, it is not too late. It just takes a wee bit of training. And a friend of mine just introduced me to an app called Lift, where you can actually enter in meditation and it will give you guided meditations. You can start at 2 minutes. It works up to 5 to 6 to 9 to 12, etc., as you progress. But these are the kind of moments that you want to take in and start doing what I call, the mind sifting and the mind training. How great would it be if you weren't so reactive to every little thing that happened in your life? That is what is available to you when you truly use this technology. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We're going to try something new here. I spoke to Guy, and after hearing a podcast the other day, I realized that, listen, we love connecting with you guys, right? And a lot of people are doing everything online and blah, blah, blah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share with you our personal number. And if you want, you can write it down. You can either call us, or if you're more comfortable texting us and you want to reach out and ask for our help on anything, then here's what you got to do. Just text us or call us at 201-815-4414. Again, 201-815-4414. Any way that we can connect with you, we are happy to do so. Thank you all for listening. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next Performance Enhancing Podcast. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to satoriprime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.